What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming at you another community shoutcast for the OUSA Dota League Season 2. We're loading into game number 1 of the Losers Bracket Finals of Blink Dota up against Horsemen the Ruckus. And so Blink Dota and Horsemen the Ruckus, both of the top two teams in the last ODL. Blink Dota were first, and Horsemen the Ruckus, despite having two players from Struggle, so Right Side New Zealand and Cease Cheese, were able to be the runner-up champions. And so this time both teams are actually duking out to decide which team will actually make it into the Grand Finals, since 5IP were actually able to defeat Horsemen the Ruckus. A bit of an upset victory. HOR threw pretty damn hard in game number 3, I have to admit. And so this series is critically important because it really goes to show which one of these teams is going to be the one duking it out up against 5IP. And so Horsemen and Ruckus, they've got first pick. Will be interesting to see what hero they... Actually, no, never mind. Looks like Blink Dota have first pick. And so will be interesting to see what hero they decide to let slip through the first banning stage. Actually, looks like they're completely screwed up as Horsemen and Ruckus were meant to have first pick. So they've actually restarted the game. Give me just a second. I'll be joining back in. Looks like we're... had a bit of a mishap, but we will be restarting and resuming fairly shortly. So yeah, Horsemen and Ruckus were meant to have first picks and they won the coin toss, but I guess these mistakes do happen from time to time. And so it will be interesting to see what hero they decide to let slip through the first banning stage. I believe Blink Dota, from what I hear, they have been practicing a few pocket strats, and Horsemen and Ruckus, the draft this year, or this semester compared to the last ODL, has been a lot more flexible. They've been experimenting a lot more with their support picks, as well as what heroes they like to run that one position. They've picked up a carrier Baden, which is what they used to defeat Blink during their scrim. So that was the last time these two teams played up against each other. And so they do have a lot of flexibility. They also like to run the Faceless Void in that one position role. While Blink Dota, they have been mostly sticking to the current meta games. They'll be relying a lot on the Deathball push strat, with a lot of the Skywrath Mage, a lot of Faceless Void, and a lot of Shadow Shaman in conjunction with the Razor the Death Prophet. But of course, 5IP, they've shown that they're not really... They're one of the teams that aren't afraid of the Death Ball. They're not really a big fan of the current metagame. They've figured out ways to counteract it. At least at this level of play, they've come up with a lot of effective strategies. And the most prominent of that involves the Omni Knight. So the Omni Knight's been the absolute crux of 5IP's victory against Blink, because they're able to use it to completely negate the advantage that you get from the Faceless Void. So when you pick up a Faceless Void, it gives your team the Alpha Strike advantage, because you're always going to be hitting them first. You're always going to have the initiation to be able to pick off a single target. So it's the same kind of idea as a Bat Rider. You jump in, you catch out a single target. You only, well, with the Chronosphere you can catch out multiple heroes, but you only really need to catch out one. If you catch out a single priority target, and with the Chronosphere, with the Mask of Madness and Faceless Void and the Time Lock, or with another hero like a Skywrath Mage, you're guaranteed to kill that target. And if you start a fight immediately 4v5, even if the Void dies right after, as a 3-position hero, he's not really too important if you can set up a good Chronosphere for the rest of your team. If he dies, but you get a Chrono off and you're able to kill someone in the Chrono, then your team should be able to win that engagement pretty handedly. So the ways to counteract the Void, which a lot of teams have been experimenting with, is either the Omni Knight, since you could use the Guardian Angel to be able to ensure that whatever target within the Chronosphere, they can't be harmed by physical damage, or you go for something like a Silencer. And so that forces Void to have to go for a BKB, and if he doesn't, every time he walks in, use the Global Silence, and Void's suddenly completely useless. He's just left completely on his own without the ability to use the Chronosphere. And since Faceless Void is such a squishy hero, especially when he's caught way out of position, the enemy teams are able to turn quite handily. And so Horsemen and Ruckus, looks like they actually gave away the Tinker as well as the Doombringer, so these are heroes they usually ban, as well as the Pandarean Brewmaster. So Pandarean Brewmaster, one of Blink's better heroes, because they've got two fantastic Brewmaster players on their team. They've got Zeke, who's their offlane player, and Bambi, who's their 5-position player, used to be the captain for Bambi Rising, used to play fantastic Visage. Haven't actually seen any Visage games coming out from him so far. So will be interesting to see if they do decide to pick up the Brewmaster. Since Horsemen and Ruckus, they don't want to play against the Tidehunter. And so Tidehunter is a hero that's been consistently being banned in the first banning stage, but it looks like Horsemen and Ruckus actually going for the Brewmaster. And so this is a bit of a turn, since Horsemen and Ruckus, I don't actually know if they've got a Brewmaster player. King Killer or Dumble D, they're both incredibly experienced players. So I'm assuming it's going to be either of the two. Probably going to be Dumble D, since he tends to have a bit more experience when it comes to micro-specific heroes. He likes to play heroes like the Meepo and the Visage from time to time. And Blink Dota, the Brewmaster pickup is actually a bit of a surprise for them, since I don't think they've ever seen Horsemen and Ruckus pick the Brewmaster. And Brewmaster, the reason why he's banned or picked in the first stage, is because of how much power he gives you in the early stages. If Brewmaster's able to get a very timely Blink Dagger, every time the ultimate is up, it's a one fight. You blink, you clapped, and you split, you've won that fight because you have so much crowd control and so much damage coming up from the Brewlings that the enemy team, they're forced to run. You can't stand and fight against the Primal Split, since you're not going to be able to kill, burst down all the Brewlings, and the amount of control that you can provide with the Storm Panda. So you Cyclone up one of either their carry, if their carry doesn't have a BKB, or you Cyclone up one of the support heroes that could save the carry. So for instance, in a Baden or a Dazzle or a Shadow Demon, so those are heroes that can interfere with the Brewmaster's ability and the ability of his team to be able to run over him in these fights. And then the Earth Panda stun locks a target, you focus fire that target down, and you continue to disrupt them. So they start a fight 3v5, because one hero is cycled up in the air for 8 seconds, another hero is stunned and being beaten on by the Fire Panda. And so the enemy team, if they try to stand their ground and fight against them, because they're outnumbered, and because Brewmaster is constantly able to continue controlling targets, it's very difficult for them to be able to win these fights. And so the only way to counter the Brewmaster is to prevent him from getting a successful clap split off. And so Doombringer, he fits that role, because if Brewmaster blinks in, he has to split immediately. He no longer has the luxury of clapping then splitting, since Doom will otherwise completely doom the instant he sees him. And Doombringer, if he's able to pick up a Blink Dagger, he can Blink Doom the Brewmaster before Brewmaster can initiate, and that means that every time the Brewmaster can't split, their team, the Brewmaster's team is going to fall apart, because they're completely dependent on the Brewmaster pick to be able to make these team fights work, especially for the first 20 minutes. And the biggest disadvantage of the Brewmaster is past the 35-minute stage, he plateaus and tapers off incredibly quickly. And so when you pick up a Brewmaster for your team has an expiration date. You have to breach high ground with 35 minutes. And that's the thing that I keep stressing. That's the reason why Death Ball works, is because you hit them before they're ready, and then you breach high ground. And once you breach high ground, even if your lineup starts to taper off, because you breach high ground, because you have such a massive influx of gold from taking all their towers, from being able to farm up all their lanes in their jungle, and then from actually breaching high ground and depriving them of golden experience by having super creeps, which provide a 2/3 golden experience compared to regular creeps, you're able to win the game just through the sheer macro advantage. And so Undying being banned out by Blink, they haven't actually had a lot of success up against the Undying. They've also banned out UGTFO's Clockwork and Dumbledore's Faces Void. And so 2 respect bans, and I suppose a lineup ban. Since Blink Dodo, they love to group up as 5, and Undying, he thrives on that. Because his Tombstone is basically an ultimate the first 20 minutes of the game. Because teams aren't able to focus fire down the Tombstone effectively in the first 20 minutes, if he's able to continuously get zombies off, the zombies provide a huge amount of control of these fights. Because A, you're constantly dealing with the snare, and B, it makes it very difficult to disengage for a fight. Because if you're below 400 HP in the Death Lust procs, your hero is pretty much guaranteed to die. Either from the zombies being able to right-click you down, or from the fact that they're providing so much snare that you could get run down by other heroes. And so Undying provides you a massive amount of early teamfight ability, which synergizes very well with the Brewmaster. And the added benefit of the Undying is you throw him against a tri-lane. And if you actually even run dual lanes with the Undying. So they could, if they wanted to, they could run the Undying with another hero or with a Lich. And it's very difficult to go on that dual lane. Because if you don't go on the Undying, he's going to drop a Tombstone, keep decaying you, and stand and turn. And if you go on the other hero, then Undying's able to get all these decay stacks off, and he hits very hard, especially since decay removes a huge amount of effective HP from you by sapping your strength. And so Horsemen and Ruckus banning out 2 of Blink's favorite support heroes, the Shadow Shaman and the Skywrath Mage. These are the 2 supports that have run most consistently throughout all their series. But I suppose they have been experimenting with a few other heroes, since I believe they have been practicing some pocket strats. They do have access to the Doombringer, which is a hero they usually never have access to. And they've picked up a Razor in conjunction with that, so we're going to be seeing Zeke going to be on the offline Doombringer, and what looks like a safe lane Razor. Razor does give you that flexibility, since he works in pretty much any lane. He's basically a Swiss Army knife made of Kinky lightning. You can throw him into any lane and he'll do well, so long as he's in a 1v1 matchup. If you want to go 3v3 and Clash Try, Razor does fantastically, because his Plasma Field is guaranteed to hit all 3 targets, and his Plasma Field does an obscene amount of damage very early on. Razor also wins pretty much every single 1v1 matchup because of the static link. Even if you only get 1 or 2 tick charges with the link, you'll have enough base damage to out-CS them. And so with the Sand King pickup coming up from Blink Dodo, they love the Sand King because of how much usage he can make out of the jungle. He's a very efficient support hero. Since if he's not in the lane, he can stack and clear out camps. He can pick up his Arcane Boots and Blink Dagger very early on. And once Sand King picks up those items, especially if he gets them incredibly early on, he can pretty much win you fights on his own. He can set up ganks, he could go in for kills. And I've actually picked up a Centaur Warrunner, so we could be seeing a safe lane Doom, a mid Razor, and a Centaur Warrunner in the off lane. Since Doombringer, you can run him mid, but he's definitely not going to do well against the Viper. Viper is the single best 1v1 hero in the game. The only hero that is comparable to the Viper is the Razor, and the two are actually very similar in the way that you play the two heroes. I like to call them retard magnets because that's what they are. They're meant to draw fire from the rest of your team, and because they provide so much damage and so much utility, the enemy team has no choice but to focus them. Because if you don't touch the Viper, he will kill everyone on your team. Because he'll either provide huge amounts of damage with another toxin, or more importantly, he'll be able to provide the lockdown, because he's constantly applying snares to the enemy team. He's usually the one carrying the mech. If you pick up an Aghanim Scepter, every 12 seconds he's got a Viper Strike, and Viper Strike is outright broken with the amount of damage it can provide on a single target. Since it's an 80% snare, level 3, 950 range, that goes through BKB, it's not so much the damage that's important with the Viper Strike, it's the fact that you Viper Strike a target, it's pretty much painting a red light on them. The rest of your team can then pick off that target because they can't run away, unless they have some kind of mobility mechanic, and even then, there's not too much they could do. If they have a BKB, it completely goes through it, and so if you use it on a melee hero like the Doom, he can't do anything. He can't hit anyone, he can't get in range. He can't be able to use any of his abilities because he's being completely controlled by that. If he used on the Centaur Warrunner, the only thing he could really do is, I guess, use the Stampede and try to use that to maneuver himself around. It's a very powerful way to control heroes, especially since Blink Dota, they currently have 3 melee heroes. And so the Razor, in this case, is a very powerful pickup because Razor v Viper is a 50-50 matchup. On paper, Razor and Viper both counter each other at the same time. Since Razor, if he gets a good link off, he should be the win the mid lane up against the Viper. But at the same time, the way you play against the Razor when you're playing a Viper is you opt for 2 points in the Poison Orb, 2 points in the Nether Toxin, and you play incredibly aggressively. Every time he links you, you throw it 1 right click to snare him, so if he attacks you again, then he's also going to receive the extra snare from the Corrosive Skin. You break the link, and then you play incredibly aggressively against the Razor, because without the link, Razor's completely helpless against the Viper. He can't rely on Plasma Field damage to zone out the Viper, because Viper doesn't give a damn with the Corrosive Skin. He's going to out-DPS you before you out-DPS him, and with the 2 points in Nether Toxin, unless a Razor gets a fantastic link off, Viper should be able to out-CS him in lane, and so Viper's able to win the mid lane passively as well as aggressively. But that being said, it really all does boil down to the first 2 levels. Since if the Razor is able to get a good link off and deny Viper enough experience in the first 2 levels, then the Razor can start to exert his control over the lane, especially if he's able to get boots before the Viper can. So we might even actually see counter boots up on the Viper, since Razor in the mid lane or Razor in the solo lane likes to start with boots first to ensure you can get a good link off. And so the way to counter that is to start with boots yourself. And so if you are able to do that, if you are able to ensure that he doesn't get a good link off, you can actually turn and hold this lane. And so they're banning out Chen. So the reason why they're banning out the Chens, both Yoshi and Bambi play a fantastic Chen. They like to play a lot of micro-intensive heroes. Most likely going to be Yoshi the Sand King. So probably between Bambi on the Chen. And he used to be, from what I hear, a Grandmaster StarCraft 2 player. So exceptional micro-control over in him. But with the Centaur Warrunner in the offlane, Blink Dota, they have to pick up a support that synergizes well with the Doombringer. The biggest issue with the Doombringer, since he looks like he's going to be the safe lane farmer, is he doesn't really give you much laning presence. It's similar to a Lycanthrope. There's not all too much a Doombringer can do. He just sits there, gets farmed, and then eventually, once he gets his ultimate, then he can start contributing. But other than that, there's not really too much he could do. I suppose he can provide a few right clicks with the Scorched Earth to get up in your face. But Doombringer's a fairly squishy hero. Despite his high strength gain, he starts with 0 armor, so he's always forced to start with a Stout Shield and maybe a Ring of Protection as well. And so Blink Dota, they banned out UGTFO's Timbersaw. Since Timbersaw, the reason why he's so powerful as an offlane hero is he effectively functions as another core hero. If you don't shut him down, he's a ticking time bomb. He will destroy every other hero on your team, especially when you have 3 strength heroes, the Doombringer, the Sand King, and the Centaur Warrunner. Because Welling Death removes 15% of their primary stat, which in this case is going to be their strength, you're reducing a huge amount, a percentage amount of their effective HP pool, and so the damage that you deal is further magnified. So they're going for a Visage. And Visage is the undisputed king of the tri-lane because of how much offensive capability he provides you. He can set up ganks by using the Grave Shield to ensure that another hero can get in position to use their abilities. He provides the Soul Assumption, which is basically a free Dagon at all levels. It provides you such a massive amount of burst damage that you have to kill the Visage. You can't leave the Visage alone. If you leave him alone, he'll be able to stand his ground, throw out the Soul Assumption, keep nibbling away in the side. And once the Familiars comes online, he has a massive amount of ganking, pushing, and overall team fighting ability. Because the Familiars provide a huge amount of physical DPS, as well as the stone drop that you get from them. So Visage, in the hands of a good Visage player, if he's able to farm up an Aghanim Scepter, or if you're not able to kill him a lot in the early stages of the game, he could cause a lot of work. They're actually going for a Phantom Assassin. So we're going to be seeing a Brewmaster in the off lane, Viper in the mid lane, and a PA tri-lane going to be played by Dumble D. Phantom Assassin, a very powerful carry hero, but at the same time, a very risky one. I really don't like seeing PA in the one position role, and the reason for that is because she's so highly dependent on a chance for her to be effective. Since Coup de Grace at level 1, it's actually a pretty terrible crit. Wraith King's Mortal Strike, which you can max out a lot earlier than the Coup de Grace, will provide you more overall DPS. Juggernaut's Blade Dance is a superior crit overall than level 1 and level 2 Coup de Grace. It's only when level 3 comes in that the Coup de Grace starts to out DPS Juggernaut's crit. And so Phantom Assassin in the tri-lane, she has to find level 11 very early on in order to become really relevant. That being said, PA as a tri-lane hero is very powerful because she provides you the setup with a Stifling Dagger, and so it makes it very easy for your supports to be able to use their abilities and to be an initiate, since she could set up kills as opposed to the supports having to set them up for her. And so it all really boils down to what item she chooses to go for. PA can go for a Battle Fury. It's usually the common item build if you're going to be playing a one-position PA, because it lets her farm very quickly, and if she ever does get a crit when she cleaves, she deals such a huge amount of damage that she can often win you the fight just off the back of that. But as I said before, the issue with the PA is she needs a fair amount of farm before she becomes effective in a fair amount of levels. Usually for a carry hero, you want one especially in the current meta game that can be active very early on, Razor completely hard counters the PA, because all of PA's ability is a single target. If you Stifling Dagger the Razor, you're going to get purged for 2 seconds with the Unstable Current. If you blink on him, you're going to be purged, so you won't be attacking as quickly as you should. And Razor, against the melee core, he just gets the static link off on you. That's all he has to do every single time in this fight. In this game, is static link to PA, and then the rest of Blink should be a clean up, especially since they've got a Doombringer, and Doom disables the blow, as well as the coup de grace. Doom pretty much turns the PA into a melee creep. And so Doombringer works very well against these kind of lineups, because they only really they've got one form of physical DPS. Viper, if he gets enough farm, can form as a secondary source of physical DPS, but if they are able to shut him down and control him, or if the game goes late enough, it's all going to be on the PA. And so there's a lot of pressure on Dumbledy, as well as UGTFO to try to... UGTFO has to try to set up the game to put them in a good enough position that they can win in the early mid-game, and Dumbledy, a lot of pressure's on him to try to win the late game. So introducing the players from both teams, King Killer going to be in the mid lane as the Viper, one of his favorite heroes. Snow, looks like he actually messed up the block, going to be the Razor in the mid lane, and it looks like he's actually starting with a Wraith Band first. Yoshi going to be in the 4 position Zanking. Really does like playing that hero. He's gone with Boots first to give him a lot more aggressive capability. Bambi over in the signature hero, the Visage, as the 5 position. Flash going to be the 1 position farm. Actually starting with Boots first over on the Doombringer, and we're seeing a very 5 IP lane. So someone should call them, because HOR, they're stealing the trademark. They've got the Lich Brewmaster dual lane, and this works very well because Lich provides you the macro advantage with the sacrifice, so it pulls the creep wave back to ensure that you always get a lot more experience, and it gives you experience as well. And every time Flash runs up to get a creep, he's going to eat a Frost Blast in the face. And UGTFO going to be the 3 position Pandarean Brewmaster, Gats being the 4 position Lich. Over in the bottom lane, Dumbledy going to be the 1 position PA, up against Zeki's going to be 3 position Centaur Warrunner, and the 5 position line going to be played by Method Man. Although him and the Lich, they're both fairly interchangeable, since both of them, they're not really too item dependent. If you could get a Blink Dagger on the line, it's fantastic, but Lich probably going to be the one going for the real big utility items for his team, probably going to be going for a 4-staff ASAP, since King Killer most likely going to be going for the Mechanism. But all in all, in terms of CS, Dumbledy by far leading the CS scoreboard to 7 for 1. And Flash, he's playing scared, because every time he runs up, he's eating a Frost Blast. And he does have that regen from the Scorched Earth, as well as from the Tangos that Bambi could also pull him. But Visage as well doesn't actually do very well against a Lich, because Visage, his only drawback is he's got 0 armor, and he's got 10% magic resistance. So every other hero in the game, apart from Visage and Meepo, have 25% magic resistance. Meepo is 35%. And Yoshi actually goes in for a burst strike on Gats. Going to turn this into a kill. They've got the Great Troll set up, but the clap blows over Yoshi. Yoshi actually feeds first blood. Soul Substitute Fly is unable to get Gats, but UGTFO very happy with that. He got a huge influx of gold from that. That's boots up for him. Flash, not too much he can do. And this is a dual lane, getting a kill, getting first blood against a tri-lane. That's the power of the Lich in conjunction with the Brewmaster. The Drunken Clap is such an obscenely powerful ability. It's one of the most powerful AoE abilities in the game, because not only does it provide you a massive amount of damage, it's the fact that it provides you a stance. You're guaranteed to get 2 to 3 shots in once you clap. And so it provides, especially with the fact that Drunken Brawl is now guaranteed crit, Brewmaster is an absolutely terrifying hero to get caught out against. Especially since you've got the Frost Blast, which also provides a snare and a potent amount of DPS as well. If they ever go for kills, it's going to be a trade, because if they could turn on the Visage and pop the Visage the sheer amount of magic damage they have before they're able to get a kill. In the mid lane, looks like King Killer actually getting a bit beaten by Snow, so Snow has a lot more denies. And in the 1v1 situation, denies are often a lot more important than last hits, especially in the early stages. Since if Razor's able to get a lot more experience than the Viper, so if he's able to find his level 6 before Viper does, Viper really relies on his Viper Strike to be able to go for a kill up against the Razor, unless the Razor overextends. Looks like he's already got boots up, and we've got counter boots up on the Viper already. That's negate the advantage, and King Killer, he loves going for 2 points in the Poison Orb, because it means that if there's ever a man fight with the two just duking out right clicks, and while he's saying Yoshi actually going for a Battle Strike, but he's learned his mistake. He's learned his lesson from last time. If he goes in, he knows he'll die. If going for 2 points over in the Poison Orb means it's not only a 20% movement speed snare, but 20% attack speed snare. So in a man fight, especially since Razor doesn't necessarily have a huge amount of attack speed in the early stages of the game, you're going to be able to win these. You're going to win these trades, because you've got the points in Nether Toxin. Probably going to be opting for a second point in Nether Toxin level 5, just to give him a lot more passive lane control. And since Snow is already at half HP, the way Viper wins his lanes by constantly applying tick damage just by trading hits and keeping them low, because he trades a lot more efficiently with the Nether Toxin. And with the Nether Toxin as well, already quite handily out CSing Snow. And Snow, he's got 3 more denies, but King Kill's got 3 more last hits. And so things are going to start to look grim, especially once level 5 and the second point of Nether Toxin comes online. But he's actually holding on to a skill point, went for a second point in the Corrosive Skin. So King Killer playing a little bit more passively. Usually Viper, you want to max out Corrosive Skin ASAP, because it makes it very difficult to kill. It looks like over the top lane, Yoshi once again takes a fall, but Visage is able to clean up UGTFO this time. So this is a trade that's much more worthwhile for Blink. Yoshi's more than happy to die in exchange for getting a kill over the offlaner. But UGTFO got the kill before he died, so he's got Arcane Boots up. And as I stated before, it's a dual lane winning against a tri lane. And this is applying a huge amount of pressure on Blink, because in terms of the gold lead, Horsemen and Ruckus already have about 600 gold lead, but the experience lead, 500 and rising. So it's about 600 experience lead, and that's much more important since they're receiving a lot more experience. Unless Yoshi, he's not going to start rotating to jungle. He's only got level 1, so he's been stacking up this hard cap. But until he gets a point up in the Sandstorm, he can't do anything to farm it up. And Dumbledy in the bottom lane, he's getting obscene amounts of farm. Zeke, he's actually found a fair amount. He's going to point up in return since he's only against the line. And so it's a good way to be able to at least trade a bit of damage, since Lion on his own can't really zone out the Centaur Warrunner that effectively. And Dumbledy doesn't really want to go on him as well, he just wants to prioritize his farm. So Treads up on him. So Mule, he likes to go for phase boots up on him, but the new school build for the PA is to go for Treads, because with Blur being 50% evasion, you usually want to prioritize maxing Blur after your Stifling Dagger. And so that means you're not going to have as many points in your Blink Strike. So you don't necessarily, so you need the attack speed more, because you're not going to have the same amount of points, because if you go for the phase boots build, you used to go prioritize Blink Strike before phase, and so you'd only have 1 point in Blow, and then max out Blink Strike, and so that will give you a lot more head stun. And if you went for the phase boots, the extra damage meant that you'd be guaranteed to deal a lot more damage to the coup de grace crit. But now with the new school build where you want to prioritize Blow, you need to make up for the attack speed that you lose from not having that lower cooldown Blink Strike. And so Treads provides you a lot more overall carry ability, because it gives you a lot more attack speed, so you're not going to be critting as hard, but you're going to be critting a lot more consistently, because you have more overall DPS. And so this means that if the game does go late, PA is going to be a lot more effective. Since PA is also an incredibly squishy hero, it's one of her biggest weaknesses. She needs to pick up a BKB if she wants to be relevant. It's why 5IP like to run the PA in conjunction with the Omni Knight, to make up for PA's biggest weakness. But Dumbledy, off to a great start. Will be interesting to see what item he does choose to go for, because Blink, that lineup is much more powerful than Horsemen and Ruckus is in the mid game. Since PA, she takes a while to become really effective. She wants to hit level 11 before she really peaks at her damage output, and before she reaches the point where she's just able to solo people and kill them very quickly. With the level 6 coup de grace, unless if she's able to prime the crit and get a 1 to 2 crits off when she jumps them, since what you want to do is, since it's pseudo-random, every time you don't crit, it increases the chance of you critting. So you head a creep once or twice before you jump a target, and if you don't crit, then your third strike, the strike that you use on the enemy hero, is more or less guaranteed to crit. And since Stifling Dagger can also crit as well, and the Stifling Dagger is pure damage, if you're able to get a crit with the Dagger and the Blink Strike coup de grace, you can actually do a fair amount of work. And Snow actually might be able to get a kill over and King Killer. He's still leashing damage. If he gets one more right click, and maybe with the Plasma Field would be enough, but he's able to pick up the regen rune. And King Killer is more than happy to trade that, since he knows that with the regen rune, Snow's not going to be in his own amount of lane. Snow's actually almost on a regen. Looks like he opted for Treads, but he's gone for the 4-2-1 build. So very standard build. Looks like he actually played very aggressively. Throughout the Plasma Field, completely whiffed it, and so now he doesn't have enough mana to be able to play aggressively. Snow, he's waiting for Yoshi to try to rotate in, but the advantage of the Viper is because he's so damn tanky. If you go for the max Cursive Skin build, is even if they gank you with 2-3 heroes, you can usually turn and stand your ground, especially if TP support comes in. So Yoshi has to be careful, since he very well will be trading his life away if he goes in for this engagement. And UGTFO, looks like he actually opted for phase boots as opposed to the Arcane. 9 times out of 10, Arcane boots is a superior pickup, because you want to always be throwing out your Clap, and you always want to be throwing out your Drunken Haze. Brewmaster's abilities are so damn powerful that the only way they're balanced is by giving Brewmaster a terrible mana pool. And so the Arcane boots completely mitigates his biggest weakness. The advantage of phase boots is that it gives you a huge amount of chasing capability, and you hurt like hell with the Drunken Brawler crit, but it's not really worth it in exchange for not having the mana to be able to clap twice in the fight, or not having the mana to be able to clap Haze and then split, since your abilities are what define the hero. Of course, that being said, if he is able to pick up his Blink Dagger very early on, and if he is able to pick up his Point Booster soon after that, then the mana you get from the Point Booster will be the make up for the lack of mana that you usually have from the Arcane Boots. And so that could be UGTFO's intent, since he loves going phase boots on all his heroes when he plays over the off lane. He plays very aggressively with the Clockwork. And Method Man actually doing the best thing Lion can do to zone out the Centaur Warrunner, which is to mana drain, which is to get rid of his mana. Since Centaur Warrunner, he was nerfed in the recent patch, so he actually goes over the stamp. He's aiming for Dumbledy, but great battle strike coming out from Method Man. Tells you what, Hexes know as well. He's going to be sacrificing his life, but Dumbledy's able to live. Great recognition coming out from Method Man. He knew that if he didn't sacrifice himself, Dumbledy would be taking fault, and he's the priority. They cannot afford to lose the PA. The Lion, they're more than happy to throw away. Lion's pretty much guaranteed to be able to die in these team fights, so he was able to blow the Stampede, as well as waste a lot of Snow's time, although he did have a haste rune, so it wasn't as much time as he would have liked. So it's a good trade coming up from him, since he also forced a TP rotation from Danby. So that means in the top lane, Flash, he's left on his own. UGTFO, he can actually choose to commit to this with the split. And Flash, he's got Doom available. Looks like he's going to be the mech carrier as opposed to Snow. So Doombringer, he's very powerful in the sense that he can provide you a lot of utility. Because Doombringer, he doesn't necessarily have to build carry items. Doombringer usually goes for something like Arcane Boots, Blink Dagger, maybe something like an Agatham Scepter or a Refresher Orb or a Shiva's Guard. Doombringer has probably the highest flexibility with his item build of any core position hero. You can literally build, you pretty much build anything on the Doombringer and it'll be effective because you can pick it up much faster than any other hero. You can pick up something, you could even go for a complete utility Doom, pick up something like a Sheepstick for him to provide that lockdown, give yourself a Sheep's Guard to make yourself very survivable. And since Doombringer can inherit passive abilities as well as active abilities from neutral creeps, he's a very useful hero to have on your team. That's the reason why he's banned. He's so damn versatile. And it looks like Flash is actually eating the Sada Howlcaller. And so the reason for eating the Sada Howlcaller in this case is because it gives him the sustainability to stay in lane. Since he knows that he's always going to be eating Frost Blast, he's also going to be eating the occasional clap. Having the extra +3 regen per second means that he can shrug it off, especially now that he has his headdress. And he's got that Scorched Earth available. It's going to be very difficult to kill the Doom. And so Horsemen and Ruckus, they should be playing very aggressively against the Doombringer right now because they know that Yoshi, he's not doing anything particularly useful for the rest of his team. He's farming. He's going to be having his Blink Dagger up and about 200 more gold. So if they are able to kill off Yoshi or take one of the towers, they can make it work. He's actually rotating to the mid lane. This King Killer, he's getting the leash off by Snow, but he's able to get what looks like 3 ticks off it. And so Snow should be able to handily out CS in the lane. Razor can go for both trades as well as face boots. There's no real superior boot choice for him since both work equally well depending on your playstyle and depending on the situation in the game. Treads does give Razor a lot more to work with because it gives him attack speed which he sorely lacks. It also gives you the ability to tread switch, especially if you're going for a bottle in the mid lane, which I believe Snow has gone for. Actually, it looks like he actually hasn't gone for a bottle. Razor doesn't necessarily have to go for a bottle. Viper doesn't necessarily have to go for a bottle as well because they don't. Razor benefits more from the bottle than the Viper does. But Viper, he doesn't really need a bottle because he doesn't get too much benefit from it. The only real benefit you get from it is the rune control. But Bambi, with his familiars, able to control the rune quite handily since he knows that if Horseman and Ruckus start to go for the rune, he can just deny it and then go in for the bird drop to be able to try to set up a kill. Dumbledore, he's actually smoked up. If they decide to go on Bambi, they should be able to bring him down. So they've got Finger of Death available and with 10% magic resistance. One Impale, Stifling Dagger, and then the Finger of Death. There you go, he's immediately dead. He turns on Method Man. But Zeke, he actually should be able to get the kill with the double. Never mind, the bird drop is there, but the stick keeping him alive for a little bit longer. Dumbledore standing his ground, Snow's now rotating in. Chain Frost coming up from Gas, he cleans up Zeke. Gas now fleeing for his life, and Snow's actually got a good link off. So Gas should be trading his life away for this. Snow eats a Stifling Dagger, Dumbledore gets purged from that, and he's lost 3 ticks of his damage. So 42 damage leashed over, so 2 for 2. Calling the support in exchange for 2 support. Horsemen and Ruckus coming out ahead for that, even though Blinker ahead in terms of kills. So 1,500 gold lead in their hands, and 1,000 experience lead. Yoshi, now he should have his Blink Dagger up. Actually, yeah, there we go. He's got it up, he's got flying over to him. And so the greedy Sand King pickup has to start doing a lot of work. Because if he's not able to start making space for his team, then the greed on him means, because they lost their lanes, since Yoshi spent so much time being ineffective in his lane, Double D actually eats a Doom, but Flash wasn't able to commit to that as Method Man TP'd in, and so that's a waste of a Doom. That's a 100-second window that Blink just gave Horseman the Ruckus. And so Horseman the Ruckus, the Blink Death Ball has been delayed, and since they're going for his Death Ball lineup, Blink Power Strike, as well as the Blink Hoof Stomp and a double edge from Zeke, King Killer should be taking a full here. He stands around, it looks like he's going to go for the Viper Strike. Usually everyone gets a clap on 2, then Split's going to prioritize Zeke. He's got the Storm available as well. He should try to Storm up Snow, or Bambi to be able to bring them down. He's able to bring him down. Yoshi's actually the one being cycled up. Gats runs in, but he's got no Chain Frost. He's actually out of position, and he gets killed with the Soul Assumption. So Split's being used, only able to get 1 from that. Not too sure why Gats actually rotated in, since usually TFO could have gotten the kill on his own and then gone out of there with that split. And so a bit of an unnecessary death coming out from Gats. Method Man's also rotated to the mid lane. He doesn't have that Finger of Death available yet. Yoshi, he's got enough for a Blink, but he doesn't have enough for a Bow Strike. But usually TFO, he doesn't know this. He doesn't have any mana for his clap. And while he does get a huge crit off with the Phase Boots, this is the disadvantage of the Phase Boots build. If he had Arcane Boots, he can play much more aggressively. Impale actually whiffs, Hex flies over in Flash. Viper Strike has 1 lens on him as well. Usually if I take it for Method Man, gets cleaned up with a Soul Assumption. King Killer as well should be taking a death. Dumbledore, he's rotated here, but he's going to be very careful. He's being pinged out. If Yoshi had a moment to go for a Blink Bar Strike, he'd be going for him. He blinks up to try to provide some vision, but Dumbledore, he's already out of there. And Blink Dota, huge advantage now going in their hands. The gold lead the Horseman the Ruckus has just gone in their way. So 500 gold ahead, but about 500 experience. Actually, it looks like about 500 experience lead. Yeah, now going about 1,000 experience lead going in hands of Blink from the back of those kills. So even though their 3 cores have a lot more CS, Blink, because they have a Death Ball lineup, and because their lineup is stronger in the mid game, which the game is currently starting to move towards, Gats actually calls himself out of position once again. Zeke catches them out with the Hoof Stomp. Yoshi comes in to provide some help with the Sandstorm, and then Doom looks like he actually got the kill with the Sada Howlcaller Blast. And so Flash, he's got mech up as well, so Blink, their Death Ball is now online. When the mech is up on the Doombringer, and when all 5 heroes have the ultimates up, you group up as 5, because they can't stop you anymore. The Split's on cooldown for a little bit longer. Chain Frost is available, but because they don't have a mech yet, King Killer, he's about 900 gold off it with the deaths he's taken. It's very difficult for a Horseman and Ruckus to be a defender, so the only thing they can really do is to try to split push. So a lot of pressure is now on Dumbledore. He has to make as much of this time as possible when Blink are grouping up, because when they're grouping up, he can farm a lane uncontested. But there's already pings coming up from him. Looks like Snow's trying to guess where he is, and fairly accurate guess. You can usually assume if the PA's not in the lane, she's going to be in the jungle, especially since Tommy's gone for the Helmet Dominator build. So he's actually dominated the Centaur, so he should be using that to start stacking camps. And the benefit of the Helmet Dominator on the PA is since PA's got the Blink Strike, you can use it defensively. So you dominate a creep, you keep a creep inside Blink range, but far away, so that if they jump you, you simply blink out to the Centaur. Looks like a smoke rotation into their jungle. Method Man, he's going to be the one breaking it. Bambi breaks it. He's got the familiar scanning out. Dagger flies out on him. He gets caught out with a bow strike coming out from Yoshi. They should be able to bring them. Zeke actually catches out Dumbledee. Gas stands his guys. Got the Chain Frost available. Viper Strike flies over to Snow. But Snow doesn't give it now. He's going to haste him. Dumbledee's able to Blink Strike out. But Snow should be able to clean this up. He's got Plasma Field coming off cooldown very shortly, so he can choose to dive this if he really wants to. Bow Strike actually whiffs from Yoshi. And the Chain Frost is not flying. Actually could be a turnaround kill. Zeke as well. Snow looks like they're going to be throwing. King Killer goes in. He should be able to take out Zeke. So they trade 2 for 2. And Blink Dota throwing away a bit of their lead. They trade away 2 cores in exchange for their carry as well as a core over on Horsemen and Ruckus. And the gold lead, it's still in favor of Blink, but that's a pretty good trade in favor of Horsemen and Ruckus. Since the experience lead is now going in their hands, they have to start taking towers, since that's going to be the critical factor. UGTFO, he's picked up his Blink Tag, he also has a Staff of Wizardry, so he could actually be going for a Dagon, unless if he decides to pick up the Staff of Wizardry and build towards his Aghanim Scepter. Dagon on the Brewmaster is actually a fairly effective pickup, because if you jump on the Sand King or if you jump on the Visage, you can kill them instantly. Clap, Dagon, then split, you start a fight 4v5, and then it becomes 2v5 because you're able to isolate 2 targets. And so it's actually a fairly powerful build if you get it very quickly. And so UGTFO, good recognition coming out from him. I suppose the biggest disadvantage of the Aghanim Scepter is you have to end the game fast. The Aghanim Scepter actually becomes a hindrance to you in the later stages of the game because you're in the Primal Split form for 26 seconds, and it's very easy for the enemy carry to be a DPS down your Brewling. Since your Fire Panda's only got about 1,500 HP, your Wind Panda's got about 1,000, and your Earth Panda, he's the only one that's got any decent amount of HP, 3,000. Doom actually being used. Looks like episode flew up from Yoshi. He's actually standing up against Dumbledee. Dumbledee fleeing for his life. He doesn't have the Blink Strike. He's pinging, but he's not able to do anything. Actually, he's able to make it alive as a mech comes in from King Killer. King Killer rotates over on Flash. Soul Assumption flies up. It's going to Alchemy now. Bambi actually being body blocked by Flash in his haste to get out of there. Brewmaster gets cleaned up by Snow as he comes up with the Plasma Field. Method Man turns around the Impale. Unfortunately, gets past the hero target, and King Killer's going to be the cleanup kill. Centaur Warrunner actually cleans up Dumbledee in the background as well, and Zeke gets 2. He's got the double damage. And with that, they should be able to take the tail 1 over the offlane 4 for nothing. Blink are actually able to do a fair amount of damage with that, and their Death Ball lineup, because they have this advantage, they have to press it. They can actually go for the second tail of the tower, and it just goes to show you the power of the Doombringer and the disadvantage of the Pandarean Brewmaster. If he doesn't get a split off, you lose that fight. And so Flash, good recognition coming up from him. All they had to do was doom the Panda before he could get a split off, and then they could just roll all over them. So 2,000 experience lead now going in the hands of Blink Dota, and about 3,000, about 4,500 gold lead once that tower falls. And I don't think Horsemen and Ruckus can defend this. They've got the split available if they really want to do this, but they have to react very quickly. Because King Killer's not there. They don't have the mech carrier. So UGTFO, he's going to play very ballsy, but they're actually able to lock him down. They might actually be able to go for a kill. The Soul Assumption able to bring him down. Yoshi, good initiation coming here for him. Dumbledee cleans him up in the back line. King Killer now comes in. Bambi's going to be throwing his life away. Snow is standing there. He wants to go for the tower last, he gets it. He's trying to TP himself on now. There's no stun available. Actually, the Chain Frost breaks, and they're able to bring him down. And Yoshi, he just says, see ya, sucker, and gets on out of there. He's hiding in the trees. He's TPing out. He should be able to make it out alive, but the first Visage Familiar takes a fall. The second one takes a fall as well. And so they're actually able to trade a fair amount from that. So Blink Dota overstaying their welcome. They should have backed the instant UGTFO came alive, because he could set up the fight with the Blink Split. And that was without the split. If he got a split off, Blink Dota they would have actually been wiped there. So none of their ultimates up. About 4,000 gold lead now in their hands. Experience lead starting to go in favor of Horsemen and Ruckus. But because Blink they've got a superior mid-game Death Ball lineup, Horsemen and Ruckus have to continue to try to win these fights. They've got a split available, so they actually could look for an engagement right now. But UGTFO, because he doesn't have the Arcane Boots, it really is hampering his effectiveness. You want to get 2 claps off in the fight, because a clap is absolutely absurd. If you could get 2 claps off in the fight on multiple targets, so you clap, then you split, and then after your split wears off, you get another clap off, you're guaranteed to get 2 kills just off the back of that. The split is absolutely ridiculous. But the advantage that Horsemen and Ruckus have is the biggest disadvantage of Death Ball is its 90% execution. If you lose a single fight, if you trade evenly and you're not able to get the tower, then things fall apart. UGTFO actually gets caught with the Blink Doom coming up from Flash, so Flash reveals his Blink Dagger. Zeke comes in, as well as Yoshi. They should be able to bring him down. And this is the pick-off power that Blink Dota have available. They've got 3 Blink Daggers, so Doombringer the Sand King, as well as the Centaur Warrunner. And then they've got the Visage to follow up the Soul Assumption. So they're able to immediately execute a single hero and then catch out of position. That provides a huge amount of impedance for them. King Killer actually call up the Blink Hoof Stomp. Empire Flies only catches out 1. King Killer stands his ground, turns around the Viper Strike. They don't have the Chain Frost available. If Gats had that, they could have turned this. But Yoshi catches out King Killer, is able to bring him down. Method Man could be the next one on his wings, as the Chain Frost will be coming off, the Barrow Strike will be coming off cooldown fairly soon. But Zeke, Blink Hoof Stomp, Flash cleans up at the level death. And Blink Dota should actually be able to take a Tattoo Tower off the back of this. That Death Balls come online with the 3 Blinks up. And this is able to punish Horsemen and Ruckus, since their biggest weakness is the positioning players coming out from their supports. And if their supports are called out like that, with the triple blink initiation, it's very easy for them to catch him out. You translate those kills into towers, and that's what Blink is doing. And every single time they do that, they become a lot more powerful, a lot more difficult to deal with. Since Dumbledore, he can't really fight until he gets a BKB. This is the power of the Razor up against the Phantom Assassin, but the great Chain Frost actually kills Yoshi instantly. Snow now in the back line should actually be taking a fall, as UGTFO should be to stun lock him down. He tries to deny himself to the neutrals, Phantom Assassin. He crits once, he crits twice, and he brings him down. Storm Striker actually catches out Flash to going in for this. He actually purges it off because he knows that support was coming in. He's got the Blink and the Clap available, but he's left on his own. Yoshi immediately gets on out of there. No Visage, so Bambi, he was able to take the tail on the bottom lane on his own. He's actually got 6 solar own charges, so he's actually dealing a fair amount of work in these fights. 7-2 for 7. This is the power of the Visage, the execution power of coming up from him, as well as the fact that he's usually the one that able to get these kills. Having farm supports is able to do a huge amount for your team, because Visage is the hero that needs a fair amount of farm to be effective, and he actually does scale fairly well with farm. So looks like he's probably going to be going for the Aghanim Scepter. Yeah, there we go. Point Booster picked up on him. Wards, he's able to buy Wards and go for the Aghanim Scepter at the same time. So Yoshi is able to continue going for his next item, which looks like it's going to be the Veil of Discord. Gats actually stands grounds. King Killer's there to help him out, but King Killer's taking a lot of damage. He's got the mech, he's also got the point boost up, so he's actually able to keep himself alive for a little bit longer. He gets doomed up, Soul Something flies. King Killer's got me and take a fall just from the dot damage from the Doom. And Gats should be able to make it out now. The UGTFO's got an Invis Rune. Method Man also rotates, but they're too late. And this is the power of Blink. Because they've got triple Blink up on their 3 core heroes, because they've got the Sand King and Blink Barrow, so I've got Zeke to set it up with the Stampede as well as the Hoof Stomp, and then they've got the Blink Doom. If they catch a single hero out, they could kill them, and then they could translate the kill into a tower, and that's what they're doing. Blink, they know that they've got the superior mid-game, but they have to press the advantage. If they don't do that, then their lineup starts to fall apart. And Dumbledore, he's gone for a Battle Fury. He's got a 21-minute Battle Fury, but double greed coming up for him with both the Helm and the Battle Fury. So while he is got a huge amount of net worth, he's completely useless until the BKB comes online. He can't fight 5v5 against Blink, unless if UGTFO is able to set up the fight for him. But since Blink have been so proactive with the way of counter-initiating the Panda, or catching him up before he can initiate, it's going to be very difficult for Dumbledore to be able to find a good angle to be able to jump in from. Because if he jumps in against their team and they have all the abilities up, they can stand their ground, they can actually kill PA with their abilities, or stun lock her to death. So she has to wait for UGTFO to blink in. But if UGTFO gets initiated on, since that's what Yoshi seems to be doing, or Zeke, setting up these fights, it's the Pandarean Brewmaster fares very poorly against the Centaur Warrunner, because the Stampede makes it very difficult for him to be able to lock down targets and isolate them. And so the Phantom Assassin, the time is ticking for Blink. If they're able to try to break high ground before BKB comes online in the PA, then they should have this game in the bag. But once the BKB comes online, if the Doom is used on UGTFO, Dumbledore can actually destroy their entire team. The Static Link still is available from Razor, so Razor still is a threat. But with the sheer amount of damage coming up from, he'll have the level 3 coup de grace then. If he's able to get a lucky crit in, he could kill Razor before he gets a good link off, and win the fight single-handedly off the back of that 10-second BKB, especially with King Killer that is set up, with all the snares available. So especially since he's going for that Aghanim Scepter, and with that mecha, he should be able to keep Dumbledore alive for as long as possible for him to be able to do this damage. But until he gets that BKB, Blink know that they've got the superior team fight, they've got the superior mid game, and if the gold continues to go in their hands, they'll have the superior late game. Since Doombringer, all he has to do is doom the PA every single fight, and they should win. Since if you look at the net worth, 4 heroes from Blink have a massive amount of net worth. The biggest advantage and disadvantage of Yoshi is he pretty much plays like another 3-position hero. He's a very greedy player, and he likes to play very greedy heroes, especially when he's playing support. So that leaves Bambi as the 5-position. He has to do work for 2 supports. Since Yoshi is usually farming in the jungle, and so that means that Horsemen and Ruckus, if they're able to press the advantage, or if they're able to ward up the jungle, so Yoshi can't find his farm, if they're able to kill him repeatedly, or kill Snow repeatedly, so he can't create space, then Blink fall apart. Because all 5 of their players are so incredibly greedy, they're completely dependent on them maintaining the gold lead. Once the gold lead slips from them, they start to fall apart. Because the way that their individual personalities goes, they like to be ahead, they like to keep getting ahead. They all like to play very greedy on their hero. Zeke, very good offlaner, but a very greedy offlaner. He usually tries to find as much farm as possible, and he's able to do a lot with that farm. But when you've got greedy support players, that can start to be a huge detriment, especially when you're playing from behind. So Horsemen and Ruckus, they've got the superior late game lineup if PA gets enough farm and if King Killer gets enough farm. Because if King Killer is able to find enough farm that if you doom the PA, then Viper can deal a fair amount of damage and try to wait out the doom, then they can try to turn this. But if they pick off PA with the Blink initiation and catch her out with the doom, then Horsemen and Ruckus fall apart. Because so much of their net worth is concentrated in the PA, and Doombringer has a hard counter to this. Because all he has to do is doom them. He doesn't have to do anything else. He can whip every other ability. He can even just run in and get himself killed. So long as he dooms the PA, Blink have a massive advantage. But if he's not able to get successful initiation off on the PA, or if he dooms somebody else instead, it looks like we've got a bit of ping issues coming out, so I'm going to take a quick drink of water. Hopefully it should be resolving itself fairly soon. If they are able to get if they're not able to get successful doom off on the PA, if they instead doom UGTFO, then PA can move in with the BKB and try to create a lot of work and try and create a lot of space. But Zeke, as well as Flash, they've got BKBs up. And Snow, he's actually got BKB up as well. So Blink Dodo, they're playing their death ball to perfection. They know that they've got a timing window. They have to get BKBs up on their 3 cores. They have to get their core items up, which in this case is the Blink and the Mech and the BKB. Once you have those items, you have to press the high ground, and you have to try to breach high ground as soon as possible. Because you've got the superior team fighting lineup. If with all 5 of your heroes with ultimates up and with their BKBs up, you should be able to handily win these fights. Because Horsemen and Ruckus, the only reason why they're able to trade kills in the last few engagements is off the back of the Chain Frost and off the back of the Finger of Death. UGTFO, if he gets caught up with a Blink Doom, since PA doesn't have a BKB yet, they can control her, they can lock her down. Snow can run and pop the BKB, static link her, and kite her around. Because especially since PA went for treads, every time she blinks or throws a dagger up on Snow, she's going to be eating the 2-second purge. So that means that Snow can clear enough distance to prevent Dumble D from getting these hits in. The Dumble D, using his minion as basically a mobile blinking platform, so good recognition coming up from him. He's dominated the Alpha Wolf, so that provides him a massive increase in damage. So he recognizes that if he gets a good crit off on the multiple heroes with the cleave, he can win that fight just off the back of that. And so a lot of pressure is on him. He's almost got his BKB, he's got about 1,300 gold, but the greed coming out from the PA, going for both the Helm and the Battle Fury, means that Horsemen and Ruckus, while they do have the superior late game DPS, if PA is eventually able to make critical mass, the game might be over before then. Because Blink Dodo, they definitely don't want to wait around for the game to go any longer. Yoshi is already waiting in the wings. He wants to go in for the Blink Bar Strike over on Dumble D. Since Flash can then jump in and doom UGTFO. And if they can do that, they can start this fight. And UGTFO looks like he has double back for the item sentence. He realizes Dagon's an item you go for when you're ahead, not when you're behind, not when you're even. You have to be ahead for the item to be effective. Especially with about 9,000 gold lead going in favor of Blink Dodo. Well, though the experience lead, 1,500, if Horsemen and Ruckus are able to win this fight, they can start knocking on these tier 3s, these tier 1s. Because each of these tier 1s, 1,500 gold for your team. They're basically just giant sacks of cash waiting to be smacked over. UGTFO, he gets doomed, so a lot of pressure is now over on Dumble D. Method Man actually gets blown up, 3 BKBs being popped, Flash is only on UGTFO, he should be able to bring him down before anything happens. Gas standing there is not all too much you can do. UGTFO buys back, Dumble D's being purged up with a Saturn. And Sanders guys actually got the Veil of Discord up on him, throws the dagger, Cypher dagger up on him. Blink doesn't actually have to retreat now with the buyback coming out. UGTFO, he's got one opportunity to try to initiate for his team. They lost 3 as well as a buyback, but Blink they have to back. They used all their ultimates. The only ultimate they did use the epicenter. UGTFO goes in, uses the split. Now he's going in. He has to set up for the rest of his team. Flash actually body blocks it in. There we go. The bolt toss flies. Zeke catches up Dumble D. He's actually zoning him out quite handedly. Bambi looks like he's the one taking a lot of damage. Flash has been cycled up in the air. Dumble D stabs his gun. The Link is flying. Link is broken. He turns on throw. And so actually could be taking full gats. If he turns around, throws on the frost blast. There we go. Finger Death actually flies out to bring him down. Dumble D cleans up one. Cleans up. Actually, he's never cleaned up two. There we go. UGTFO brings him. Gives the Zeke the cloud. Zeke caught up with the earth spike. Brings him down. Familiar's almost able to bring down Dumble D. The blow doing so much work, but the dot damage from the Scorch Earth able to bring him down. Flash now turned into a frog. Never mind. It's actually turned into a fish. UGTFO fleeing for his life because of the level death that is available. Gem actually on the deck. Flash is going to be able to pick it up. As Visage familiars are there. There we go. She drops the stick and he picks it up. We've got the pings coming out from King Killer. And Horsemen and Ruckus, they were able to at least trade. So UGTFO's buyback was worth it, but at the same time, they lost Dumble D. In terms of net worth, he is ahead now. I believe he's almost got... Yeah, there we go. He's almost got enough for his BKB. So Blink, with their 10-second BKBs, they weren't able to breach high ground. In fact, they actually barely did any damage to it. So in terms of overall strategic positioning, Horsemen and Ruckus are actually ahead. They won that fight because of that. It did cost them a buyback. But Blink, they were at their strongest, and they weren't able to breach high ground. They only got 3 kills, and that buyback immediately leveled the playing field. Because UGTFO, because they doomed him, instead of dooming Dumble D, he was able to run in and do a lot of work. Even though it did force him a buyback at this point isn't really worth too much. Kinky actually caught out position with the bar strike as well as the Blink Doom. Now familiar bird drop coming from him. Bambi, he's got the soul assumption available, and Kinky is going to be taking forward. He's caught way out of position there. There's no wards available for Horsemen and Ruckus. That's due to the gem advantage. Over on the Visage, now over on Flash. And Visage is one of the best gem carriers. Similar to the Vengeful Spirit, the Shadow Demon, or the Venomancer, the reason why they're so effective is because they're self-sufficient gem carriers. They have an ability that gives them vision on high ground, so they can de-ward very tricky spots. Visage is great because he always has flying vision. Venomancer is also good because he doesn't have to risk himself, he can just drop the wards. And unlike the Familiars, the wards, they're pretty much expendable. It doesn't really matter if the enemy hero is able to farm them up. Whereas the Familiars, that you at least have to be a little bit worried from them. but the flying vision makes it very difficult to be able to place these wards. So because they got a very early gem up, that Blink Dota, they're executing the death pool perfectly. They're starving out Horsemen of the Ruckus. And because they currently have the lead, they're able to press it. So Zeki, constant stifling dagger flying out of him to prevent the initiation, but it looks like he's going for a Shiva's Guard, and he's obscenely farmed. Flash going for his Soul Cuirass. He goes in, doubly goes with the BK, he takes out half of Flash's life. Flash has the Doom available, stands the action, brings out UTF, never mind, doesn't have the Doom available, he's got 30-second cooldown, Dumbledore forced back. Kinky runs in, throws in the Viper Strike over on Flash. They can try to turn this if they really want to. They don't have to split available. UGT have no buyback this time. Dumbledore's able to bring it down. Epicenter Viper Strike comes out from Yoshi, actually catches out 3, turns that fight. Chain Frost kills Zeki in the background. But Yoshi able to win that fight single-handedly off the back of that triple Viper Strike at Epicenter. And Method Man, only one left alive. He can't defend high ground on his own, especially with the heroes dead for a while. There's going to be a set of racks going in favor of Blink. They've got fortification available, and they're going to be forced to use it. Actually, we're going to Dumbledore buying back Snow, almost takes a fall, 20 HP left. Method Man, he was so close, he threw out one right click, but it actually drives them back. So Scare Tactics coming out from the line, since he's got that level 2 Finger of Death, actually a fair amount of damage coming up from him. So it's the power of dual lanes going in favor of Horsemen of Ruckus, and they still are able to hold their high ground. That did cost them their buyback as well as the fortification, but so long as they're able to hold high ground, Horseman of Ruckus' lineup gets stronger and stronger the later the game goes. Up to an extent, since UGTFO, he will reach a point where he starts to diminish, and in about 5 minutes he's going to reach his point of no return, where he starts to diminish as a hero, especially since he has such little farms, since he's taken so many deaths, since he's always the one eating the Doom. But Dumbledore, doing a fair amount of work, if he's able to find another big item before the next fight, so something like a Cranium Basher, they can start to turn the tide. Because Blink, they're breaking even right now with the engagements. They still are ahead, and they still do have the macro advantage, but they can't group up as 5 like that and try to push. They're going to have to wait for a little while and try to starve them out, get a bit more farm. Looks like a top tier 1 tower actually took a fall. I don't know if that was denied or not. Don't think it was denied. So a fair amount of gold going in their hands. They probably want to wait until they finish their next set of items. So Razor wants his Aghanim Scepter. Flash, Doombringer wants his Assault Cuirass, unless he's going for a Mjolnir. But probably going to be the AC to help with the pushing power. Zeki, he can probably farm up his Shiva's Guard in the time they go for the next push. And Bambi, he's almost got his Aghanim Scepter as well, so they're going to wait for the next set of items and then push. Because they know that Horsemen of Ruckus, they're playing scared, because they've got no vision. There's absolutely no vision for either team at the moment, as it looks like the last ward just expired. And Horsemen of Ruckus, they actually can't place any wards right now. Because of the fact that the gem up on the Visage, it's got flying vision, you can't drop wards anywhere. Nowhere is safe for you. So the Visage is able to effectively control the map by providing them no safe haven to farm. And even though all 3 lanes are completely empty, and even though Blink are farming their jungle, Horsemen of Ruckus, they're too afraid. They can't farm these lanes. So this is the power of Death Ball. Is you take the tattoos, you strip them of that vision, you get a gem up, you strip them all form of map control, and then you farm up the lanes. You farm up their jungle and your jungle at the same time. They have to group as 5 so they don't get picked off, because if you pick them off one more time, that's a set of racks going in your hands. And then you just farm them out, get that macro advantage, and then you push. If you continue to keep pushing, especially since they keep breaking even, Blink, they'll actually throw the game that way. If they keep throwing themselves up against Horsemen of Ruckus and they're able to continue to successfully defend, or at least break even, it's going to go in favor of Horsemen of Ruckus. Because Blink Dota, since they've got the Goldie and the experience lead, especially since they have so many sprees on their heroes, they can't afford to take deaths like that. When you're behind, any trade is a good trade, so long as you're trading something. So Phantom Assassin, about 1,500 gold off the Cranium Basher, doesn't have buyback available, won't have buyback available for a little while. And so Dumbledore, a lot of farm needs to get picked up on him. He still is leading in terms of net worth. It's just the rest of his team is lagging so far behind. So Killer, he was doing okay in the mid lane up against Snow. He had more CS than them. Didn't have as many denies. But the rotations coming in from the sports, there was actually no support rotations coming in from Horsemen of Ruckus because they're around dual lanes. So that's the intrinsic disadvantage of dual lanes. The reason why pro teams run the 3-1-1 layout with the tri-lane is because the tri-lane supports you never want to rotate on your own. You want to rotate as 2. You want to rig the deck to make sure that you're guaranteed to get a kill. And so that's why you usually want 2 supports to rotate. But the disadvantage of Lich is he's a pretty terrible hero to rotate with, because the only thing he provides you is a Frost Blast and a few right clicks. Lion, he's fantastic. He provides you a huge amount of lockdown, a huge amount of damage. But the Lich doesn't really offer you too much compared to other support heroes. And it looks like Blink Dota with the dire side advantage, they're going for Roche. And Horsemen of Ruckus, they know something's not quite right, because all 3 lanes are continuing to push out with no hero in sight. So they're either smoked or they're doing Roshan. And Snow looks like he's going to be the Aegis carrier. So Razor's actually a pretty good Aegis carrier because the Eye of the Storm persists through Aegis. So if he were to just YOLO push up the tower and die over here, the Eye of the Storm would be to bring down the tower. And then he reincarnates back at full life and full HP. And so the Aegis gives you, especially on a hero like a Razor, it's meant to act as a retard magnet, but can also function as a carry hero for a huge amount of DPS, especially with the level 3 Aghanim Eye of the Storm. Razor suddenly becomes a high priority target, but at the same time, you don't want to focus him, because if you focus him, the rest of Blink will roll all over you. Flash, he's not really providing too much damage, but he just provides the lockdown and the teamfight control. Level Death does an obscene amount of damage if you get the level multiplier off. And so Doombringer, all he has to do is stay alive in these fights. Doom and target, stay alive in these fights, get up in their face. And so the 2 tanky cores coming out from Blink, actually triple tanky cores, I've got the Centaur Warrunner as well, and it's very conducive for a death ball. Because that means that if you win a fight, even if your heroes are low HP, because you're so tanky, you still take a tower. And so now he can slow siege at the high ground of the Eye of the Storm. Looks like a Blink Doom over UGTFO to prevent that split. Gats, he's holding high ground, BKB's been popped. Dumbledore comes in, Stampy's been used to zone out as Dumbledore enables him to kite. Viper Strike being used on Snow. Snow's being driven off. They used their BKBs, but Dumbledore no longer has a BKB. Snow now pops his Finger of Death flies. Actually, looks like he's almost going to bring down Yoshi, but Yoshi sitting in the Sandstorm. Dumbledore takes a fall as the Plasma Field. One more right click coming from Soul will be enough. Looks like Soul Storm should be able to bring him down. Yoshi's Blitz on the other. No Epicenter even required. They're just focusing down the Brewlings and UGTFO, fleeing for his life. If the Brewling dies, he will be taken fall. Method Man gets called out with the Blink Hoops on the double edge, so Zeki's able to cut him down. That's a set of racks going in favor of Blink Dota. And things are looking very good for Horsemen and Ruckus. It's about 12,000 gold lead now in Blink's favor, and 15,000 gold lead. This early on with the Death Ball Live, we've now hit the 35-minute mark. And so UGTFO, he's reached the point where he's no longer useful. Because even if he splits, they can focus down on his Brewlings. As you saw in that last fight, he's getting called out with the Doom, so he's coming in with the initiation after the majority of the fights already happened, when the BKB is down on Dumbledore. And so the Brewmaster has been completely new to this game. And Blink Dota should actually even take a second set of racks, as Dumbledore, no buyback available for him. He's dead, won't be coming back anytime soon. King Killer, incredibly underfarmed this game. He was completely just shut down the mid lane because he was called out position so many times. The rotations coming in from Yoshi. And so Blink Dota, the greed coming out from their support players, not being punished. If Horsemen and Ruckus were able to punish this, they will be in a much better position. UGTFO, Blinks and Chainfrost flies out as well. Flies over on Flash, he's got the Stampede. And his Gats gets caught out with the Blink Move Stomp as well as a double edge. Cuts him down. Snow leading the charge over Method Man. Method Man, nothing he can do. You can't run against a BKB Razor. King Killer, call out the Bar Strike. He wants to go for a kill. Throws out one more right click over Zeki. Solar Storm's just there. He's able to bring him down, basically trading his own life. That's 2 sets of racks now going in favor of Blink Dota. And Horsemen and Ruckus, they can't recover at this point. But the lineup that they have, Blink Dota, they've reached critical mass. It's too difficult for them to fight because all 3 cores are so damn tanky. And this is the drawback of Phantom Assassin. If you don't burst targets down quickly, if you don't have enough damage to be able to kill targets very quickly, and with a minimal amount of abilities used, she tapers off. In long drawn out fights, PA falls apart. Because she's dependent on the BKB charge, on the BKB time, to ensure that she can win the fight then. So similar to a Faceless Void, she has to win the fight by providing so much damage at the start that you instantly kill a hero, or kill 1 or 2 heroes. If you can't do that, if they're tanky enough to survive you, or if they can kite you, either with the Stampede in this case, or Ghost Scepters and Force Staffs, then PA falls apart very quickly. Because she's incredibly squishy. Once the BKB wears off, she's food. You stand your ground, you turn around, you blow her up. Especially with the Centaur Warrunner, the Hoofstomp double edge takes out a huge chunk of her life. Yoshi with the Epicenter, even if he doesn't go on the PA, if he's able to kill the rest of his team, PA on their own can't make massive plays unless he's obscenely farmed. But in that case, you've won the game regardless. And so the PA pickup, bit questionable, would have liked a much more active early to mid-game carry. Since Blink Dota, they just did what any team would do against a PA. They group up as 5 very early on and push and punish the PA pickup, especially since PA went double greed. Usually you go Helmet Dominator or BKB, you don't go both this early on, because it gives you too much greed. Unless you're confident in your team being able to play Full Protect 1, and being able to delay the game until you become effective, you're not going to be being able to win that game, especially when the enemy team is in Doom. Doom bring a hard counters Full Protect 1, because all you do is doom the target they're protecting. You don't have to doom anybody else. In this case, he's dooming UGTFO, since UGTFO could set up for Dumbledore, so you don't necessarily have to doom the PA, because they've got enough survivability to stay alive past the BKB, and then turn around and kill it once the BKB wears off. And so the Brewmaster pickup, while he did have a good early game, the lack of the Arcane Boots, man, he wasn't able to play as actively as he'd like. King Killer, taking a low time, he's got the Doom up on him, BKB charge is being used, Gats gets cleaned up, the Chain Force doing nothing, and they're just going straight for the Tier 4s. Blink Dota, no fuss, no muss, they're just going right for the Jugular. Aghanim Scepter up on Bammy, so triple familiars up on him. In terms of gold lead, looks like about 20,000, 25,000 gold lead going in favor of Blink, and about 20,000 experience lead. They're looking pretty good. UGTFO comes on the Blink, clap as well as a split, but there's only so much he can do. All he can do at this point is delay. Dumbledore comes as well with the BKB charge. They're giving it their all. Horsemen and Ruckus, they're standing their ground. Dumbledore gets completely torn apart by the Eye of the Storm. Eye of the Storm is -3 armor a second if you're the only target in range. GG finally being called 38 minutes in. So Blink Dota executing some very effective death ball and able to take a very convincing game number 1. We're going to be taking a quick break and we'll be right back for game number 2. So stay tuned for a bit more Dota. And a quick shout out, the aspect of gaming, Dota 2 Community Crackdown will be starting this next weekend. So it'll be taking place over 4 days, so the 16th and 17th of August, as well as the 23rd and 24th of August. I believe it costs about $10 per team to register. It's up for 64 teams. I think there are currently 30 teams registered up. There's about over $1,000 in the prize pool as well as giveaways, so it's definitely something to check out if you are on the team. But we'll just be taking a quick break, and we'll be right back for game number 2.